So I had a feeling we would get to the point where whatever M2 was working on that was supposedly bigger than Resident Evil 3, it'd probably come out pretty quickly, considering we had the rumor going around about them shifting to a new project. Now, M2 had run support on Resident Evil 3, and to be honest, Resident Evil 3 came out and I wasn't super high on it. They had cut content, and to be honest, it's kind of like you play through it and that's kind of it. I don't know. I didn't really have any drive to go back and play through it again or anything. I thought about it and I said, well, I just don't really feel like it. So yeah, that's it was kind of a shame to see that Resident Evil 3 came back in that way. But Resident Evil 3 wasn't on the level of like Resident Evil 2 in terms of hype factor. I think Nemesis was probably the biggest reason people were excited for it, and unfortunately, Nemesis didn't take center stage, we'll say, in the game like people were hoping that he would. So the idea now of M2 shifting to a new project that is bigger than Resident Evil 3, to me anyway, that mostly left Resident Evil 4. In fact, in the video I did on the second channel, I specifically mentioned that. I said, I think they're doing Resident Evil 4, and some of that, believe it or not, was on some rumors that had kind of already been out there, but not really like sourced through multiple places, nothing like that. Well, it looks like VGC, Video Games Chronicle, has now stated, according to them and several sources that they have received, it looks like that is indeed what M2 is doing. They are shifting over to have Resident Evil 4 Remake go into full production, and this is interesting. The internet is pretty split on the idea of this. Now, according to VGC, along with the rumor of them shifting to Resident Evil 4, M2's been working on this apparently in like the early stages since 2018, preparing for this big push, and they now have a target release window of 2022. Now, we of course see Capcom not really tell us about these Resident Evil remakes until I think they're pretty much ready to go. Like, we find out months beforehand, and I think they learned their lesson after what happened with Resident Evil 2, where they told us way in advance that it was happening, and we were kind of just left standing there waiting around for years to figure out what was happening. Eventually, it showed up at Sony's E3. Everyone got real excited, and then we found out it was only a couple of months, well, half a year or so until its release, and that was great. Resident Evil 3 was shown off like months before it was coming out, which was also really cool to have that. So most likely, if the window of 2022 is correct, and let's say it's coming out in like early 2022, we wouldn't find out about RE4 from Capcom until like late next year in 2021. Most likely after the rumored release of Resident Evil 8, which is sounding very interesting, almost like it was a project that shifted from RE8 over to Revelations 3 and then back to RE8. The rumors around that game are all over the place, and it sounds like it is going to be a bit different than people are used to for Resident Evil games, mainline Resident Evil games like that. So that'll be fun. Apparently that's going to be showing up soonish. I think probably it would have been around E3 time, but who knows? It could show up at any time. We saw, of course, RE3 in a state of play, so sure, it could be in a state of play. It could be at Microsoft's event, an Inside Xbox or something. Who knows? So now the question has shifted online. Does Resident Evil 4 need to be remade? That is actually a pretty good question, because if you go back and you play RE4 now, minus the visuals, it's still playable. Like, it's not like how Resident Evil 2 or Resident Evil 3 on even the GameCube, where it's like, okay, it looks better on the GameCube, obviously, but it still doesn't have controls that we've become used to, right? With kind of the tank controls. The RE engine has done great things with those games, right? Like RE2 going to the RE engine was great. RE3 is like one of the best looking games of this generation as well. So those being moved over to that has worked fine. But like RE4 is going to feel like it just got visually better. Is that a bad thing? Well, no, I think that's fine. But I mean, Capcom keeps porting the thing anyway. To me, it's like, you might as well remake it. But if they're going to cut content like they did with RE3, I don't think they should. In fact, if Capcom is going to remake Resident Evil 4 as this rumor is saying, and it be ready to go in 2 years, I would hope they're not doing it for the cash-in as much as they're doing it to make a good game that will sell well. Because RE4, with that name, is going to sell well by default. Like, Capcom obviously knows that, okay, if we did Code Veronica, we would make some people happy at different parts of the internet, okay, but if we did RE4, that would have a much bigger effect and we would sell way more. That's why Code Veronica is not happening right now. It hasn't even been mentioned in anything. It's all been RE8 and RE4 being remade. Capcom does want Resident Evil, it seems to be a yearly series, so I wouldn't count Code Veronica out, nothing like that. It probably will happen at some point, but they'll probably even go back and do the original Resident Evil before Code Veronica. So I think if they keep everything intact, because on its own, Resident Evil 4 is like, if you play through it for the first time, it'll take you somewhere between 15 and 20 hours, somewhere in there, and then of course you get better at it and you get cooler things and you can start running through it faster. But for the most part, it will feel like a more complete game, I'll say, than Resident Evil 2 or even 3. Definitely more so than 3, right? Where 3 is like a 5 or 6 hour game. You'll get like 3 times the amount of time out of Resident Evil 4 in your first playthrough overall, which is much, much better for current times. But I also was thinking about, I said, okay, well, 2022 will most likely be the RE Engine's big debut on the Series X and the PlayStation 5 specifically. Like RE8 for next year will most likely be, of course, cross-gen. It'll come out on the Series X, the PS5, the PS4, and the Xbox One, but they'll still be accounting for that VCR model Xbox One, right? The lowest end model, but if Resident Evil 4 gets that full remake in the RE Engine and they don't have to account for any of that and it's just Series X and PS5, that would look pretty good. Like, that would be pretty insane to see Resident Evil 4 in that light. The other interesting part about this rumor, and it does make me wonder a little bit about this, is that apparently, according to VGC, Capcom had approached Shinji Mikami and they declined. He said, no, I'm not going to be leading the project, but he is apparently providing informal advice, I guess, to help with this shift for Resident Evil 4 up to current times with, well, in 2022, like I said, next-gen platforms. That seems a little concerning, although maybe Shinji Mikami didn't want to necessarily drop everything and go redo Resident Evil 4. I mean, if you think about it, he's probably like, oh, I already did that. It came out. It's a classic. I mean, you guys, Capcom, keep porting it over and over again. You sold it to Switch owners for $30, and I have a feeling that sold way better than it should have at that price. So why would I come back and potentially make a worse game? That is like this massive risk in general, right? Is that Capcom remakes this thing, it comes out, and it's rated worse than what it was originally. That would be pretty bad, I think, for a classic like RE4. I almost wonder if it's possible that Capcom could ruin RE4 by remaking it and having it be cut down and all kinds of things actually wrong with it in its current day when it comes out. I think the problem we have right now is we just got off of Resident Evil 3's remake, right? And we look at that and we say, ooh, I hope that's not how RE4 ends up. But then we look at Resident Evil 2 and we go, well, it'd be great if it turned out like that. Like, I think if Resident Evil 3 had not happened at this time, right, and we were just coming off of RE2, I think people would be more on board, but we're trying to figure out which side of the coin we're getting here. Would it be Resident Evil 2 or 3? That's our biggest concern right now. We don't know which way Capcom's going with this. I would like to assume that Capcom knows the importance of Resident Evil 4 to them as a brand. I mean, it's their most popular Resident Evil. I'll just say it is. So if they come out and it's bad, that will be a problem for Capcom overall, because let's be real, they're going to want to port this version over and over again as well, I'm sure. So they probably want to get it right the first time so they can continue to, let's be real, milk it over the next decade or two. Yeah. Let me know what you guys think of the idea of Resident Evil 4 coming out in 2022 with a remake. Do you want Capcom to attempt it or not? Again, I'm concerned because I don't know how this is going to turn out. If it turns out like RE2, I'm on board. I would love to see it. If it's going to be like RE3, I'm okay. Let's go try something else for a bit, like Code Veronica. Also, what about Resident Evil becoming a yearly series? We just had RE3 this year, of course, RE2 before, Resident Evil 8, I guess, then Resident Evil 4, and who knows after that what they'll do. Let me know what you guys think about this stuff down below, though. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.